That's why you trade. Okay, that's why you trade. Ladies and gentlemen, you see the caps on. Factor Cap is back. Okay, salute to my guy. And wow, the grand return of Factor Cap. For those of y'all who are new to this show or forgot all about this segment, what we like to do right here is we like to read off a couple statements and decipher whether or not this statement is fact or cap. And if we agree with the statement, we'll say fact and explain briefly why the statement is factual. Or if we disagree with this statement, we'll say cap and put on our caps and explain why briefly. So the first factor cap segment that we have right now is PJ Washington will be the biggest X factor in the NBA Finals. Zay, is that fact or cap?
For me, I'm gonna say fact. PJ Washington will be the biggest X factor in the finals. What we remember him from OKC, he shot over 45% from the field, over 45% from the three-point line. I believe averaged 17 points per game, which was a big factor and reason why they beat OKC. Able to space the floor. He is open majority of the time because teams are not focused on him on the offense. They're focused on a role with Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. They're focused on the perimeter shooting of Kyrie Irving, Mr. Irving, and Luka Doncic himself, which leaves PJ Washington open more times in the corner, top of the key, in the wing. And I think they're going to put so much focal points on Luka and Kyrie that they're going to leave the perimeter shooters open. So for me, I think PJ Washington will be the biggest X factor in the finals.
I'm going to go with cap here. Now, I do agree that PJ Washington is going to be one of the X factors in this series, being all the points that you said. You know, especially if the Celtics decide to blitz Luka Doncic to force the ball out of his hands, you know, he's going to be open. You know, you can't take away everything. You know, you're going to take away the lob threats. Derek Lively and Gafford, okay. Can you try to take away the three-point shot? Can you do both? What about Luka? What about Kyrie Irving? So I do believe that PJ Washington is going to be open in those corner threes. But when you look at his playoffs, he's been very streaky. I do agree that he had a very good series against OKC, but the last series, he wasn't shooting the ball well. Now, in the fourth quarter, he did deliver, you know, especially with some of those shots he knocked down, but he was very streaky. However, the reason why I'm going to say cap here is I think Kristaps Porzingis is more of the biggest X factor here in this series. Not only because of, you know, obviously the obvious, the 7 foot, you know, being able to, you know, rim protect, being able to open things up for Jaylen Brown and Tatum, but it's the fact of the matter is, you know, when you look at the bigs of the Dallas Mavericks, they dominated every single series. You can argue, right? They dominated OKC, prevented Chet Holmgren from having an impact, you know, at the rim. You know, they dominated the last series as well. And Kristaps and his ability to space the floor is going to remove these guys from paint patrol. So now things will get a little bit more uncomfortable, you know, for these guys, and it's not going to be as easy for these guys. And plus, he's rusty. You know, he's coming back. He hasn't played throughout the majority of the playoffs. So will he tamper with chemistry? You know, what if he's struggling? You know, now Al Horford has to play heavy minutes. So I do believe that Kristaps Porzingis is your biggest NBA Finals X factor. All right. Zay, we're going to move on to the next factor cap here. This is the most talented NBA Finals matchup in NBA Finals history. Factor cap.
I think it's a fact. I think for me, there's so much happening on Boston alone. When we talk about two dynamic scorers who could do anything on the offensive side of the floor, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I think Derek White has improved incredibly as a shot creator to the point where you can't just leave him open. You can't just guard him one-on-one. And Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis himself is 7'3", able to dribble, able to do a lot of different variations on the basketball floor. That's so much talent as is at the top five. And then when you look over in Dallas, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Tim Hardaway Jr., PJ Washington, the list goes on and on. Josh Green, Jaden Hardy. There's so many talented guys on the floors that play. I'm not talking about just down the roster. I'm just talking about the guys who play and get minutes. There's so much talent out there. This might be arguably, this is the most talented NBA Finals in NBA history.
I agree with you. I'm going to go fact here. And the reason why I'm going to go fact is you start off with Dallas. They have arguably the most skilled duo of all time. We know Luka Doncic repertoire. We know the same thing with Kyrie Irving. And I think Kyrie Irving has done an amazing job kind of reinventing himself, you know, reinventing not only his image but his game, being able to be that off-ball guy, co-star next to Luka Doncic, and being able to get guys involved and make his impact, scoring the basketball, and having his little one-on-one moments, showing us why we love Kyrie Irving with his handles, ability to finish at the rim. I don't even really have to go deep into Luka. I mean, Luka is arguably the best player in the world. You look at the other team, the Celtics, they have the best starting five in the NBA. And if they win the championship, if they go on and win the championship, we are going to have serious conversations about this being arguably the greatest team of all time. We know they have all NBA All-Stars on that team. I think in their own right, Tatum and Brown arguably is top five in the NBA as far as duos as well. They made a lot of All-Star teams. Brown made an All-NBA team as well. They may not play as cohesive together when they're on the floor. Normally, one guy's going off, the other one is not. But when you look at purely skill and abilities to literally pay the bills with the skills, these guys is right up there top five in the league as well. And if you look at their resume, it'll speak to that as well. Drew Holiday, man, his All-NBA defense, he's going to be tasked with a lot of the heavy lifting on that side of the ball. Derek White as well, the reinvention of his career. When he was on San Antonio, we had guys like DeJounte Murray and DeMar DeRozan. They didn't have the spacing that Boston has, which allowed things to open up for a guy like Derek White to be able to modify his game and expand and do more. I think it's a perfect fit for him. Al Horford, don't let him get hot. I mean, yeah, it's so much talent. Chris Stopps, do we see a guy like him, 7 foot, being able to almost average 30 points per game, being able to space the floor? I mean, there's so much talent on this floor. Yeah, I do agree, man. It got to be the most talented finals matchup in finals history to me. All right, we're going to move on right now. Let's check out these comments. Cap. Oh, Kenny. Which one is Cap? Is it the talented finals? If so, drop another comment. I'll get right back to that. Anyway, let's move on right now. Jaylen Brown will be the best player in this series. Fact or cap? Zay.
We're going with cap with this one. There's a big cap on this one. I don't think Jaylen Brown will be the best player in this series. I know what he's capable of doing. I also know what he's capable of doing in big games. He's a guy that relies on his team to really open up space and give him the ability to score and do different things. I think he's going to try to force a lot of shots when the offense is not flowing, which he's been capable of doing. And I think the best player in this series will be Kyrie Irving. I think he's going to be the most dynamic. We just seen what he was capable of doing against Minnesota alongside of Luka Doncic. I just think that Kyrie, his ability to score and any magnitude, any high leverage situation creates problems amongst not only everybody on the floor. And I think he'll be showcased why he is the number one guy in this series.
All right, Dujane said cap to talented finals. Once again, Dujane, let me know what finals you think is more talented, and then we'll respond to that. We'll go back to that at the end of this segment. All right, I'm going to go cap here for Jaylen Brown. Now, I do think he's probably going to be one of the most important players in these finals, being that he's going to have some, duties being tasked with guarding a guy like Luka Doncic. I think he's going to share that with Drew Holiday. And I think when you look at Jaylen Brown, his prototypical frame, that's a build-a-bear guy that you would want to guard a guy like Luka Doncic. Unfortunately, I don't think he has the defensive IQ to be able to, not get burnt on certain plays. So I think his attention to detail on that side of the ball is going to be very important. Plus, setting the tone offensively, being aggressive. We know Tatum is a guy that's laid back. He's a little bit too laid back for my liking, being a number one on a championship team. You can't be laid back. But that's why you got Jaylen Brown to be aggressive, have those early first quarter runs that he likes to go on. He loves to start fast, and it allows Tatum to ease his flow into the game and do the things that Tatum do and Jaylen Brown as well. But I do think not only is Luka the best player in the world, I think he will remain the best player, on the floor in this series as well. The combination of his scoring and passing abilities, being able to dissect a defense, Boston is going to have to pick their poison, whether they want to double him, blitz him, force him to be a playmaker. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you won't force him to be a scorer, because he would just tear you apart. I think Luka Doncic will, at the end of the series, be the best player of the series, win or lose. Like LeBron James a couple years ago, I believe LeBron James, you can make the argument. I forgot which year when he played the Warriors. He was like, he was the best player on the floor, but they just didn't win. Now, I'm not saying there's no predictions here. I'm just saying, win or lose, I think Luka will be the best player on the floor. All right, let's check out these comments real quickly here. We had a finals with KD, Russ, Harden, Ibaka, Brown, Wade, Bosh. Now, I do think those guys wasn't in their prime. KD was not in his prime. Russell Westbrook was not in his prime. Harden was not in his prime. Harden left and became his own guy, became a star. Won a couple scoring titles. Brown, Wade, and Bosh was in their prime. So, Zay, I'm not sure if you want to respond to that as well.
Yeah, I think when you talk about Russ, Harden, Ibaka, those three were not really in their prime. They were role players at that time. They weren't really the stars. KD was, I think he won a scoring title at that time or close to it. Braun and Wade, they were in their prime. They were extremely talented, of course. But we're talking about four players. Let's just talk about the four players: Tatum, Brown, Irving, Luka Doncic. Those four players right now are currently in their prime, currently playing at the top of the level of their games. And I think right now, that is just more of a talent disparity between those four and the guys we just listed between KD, Braun, Wade, and Bosh. So I think right now, we're talking about in terms of talent, I think right now we're witnessing one of the more talented NBA Finals, if not the most talented NBA Finals we've ever laid our eyes on.
I agree 1,000%. All right, we're going to move on to the next one here. Rebounding will decide who wins the NBA Finals. Fact or cap? Say.
Well, no, this is a fact. I think rebound is the most crucial thing, a part of the game. A lot of people don't talk about it. They don't discuss it as much. Everyone focuses on if your ability to score, ability to stop somebody, but that rebound is crucial. Getting that second chance opportunity is crucial. Getting the defensive rebound is crucial. I think the Mavericks, what we just saw them defeat the team that I believe had the most rebounds in the league this upcoming season. The team that had 2 7-footers getting 10 rebounds each, and they out-rebounded them the entire series. So I think that's something that the Celtics need to focus on, need to hone in on. They have to focus on team rebounding, and I think there's going to be an interesting dynamic on what happens here. I believe, and I think, and I hope when we watch the series and we go back, I think whatever team has the most rebounds that game will win each game. And I think hopefully when the series is all said and done, we'll go back and watch that. That's a great Dujane, that's a great pick. The 1985 Lakers Celtics. That was a lot of talent back then too. But none of them was Kyrie Irving or Luka Doncic, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. So let me get this other. Okay. I mean, look, you had talent. The NBA has never been short of talent. Clearly, the NBA is one of the most talented sports in all of sports. But I just think right now, man, the way how these guys are playing at an elite high level, both of these teams, I just gotta live in the moment right now and go with them. All right. So for rebounding, I'm gonna go with fact. You don't see my cap on. And I'm going to leave it simple. Pat Riley, the great one, said that you don't rebound, you don't win chips. I think rebounding is very important. It's the unsung hero of winning ball games, being able to get there on the boards and battle for the boards, second chance opportunities. And when you combine what we just talked about, the talent, the skill, the shot making, rebounding will allow those second chance opportunities for guys to knock down shots. I think it's plain and simple. I agree. Fact. All right, we are going to move on to the next one. We got, I believe, 2 more. The Celtics should break up Tatum Brown if they don't win the finals. Fact or cap?
This is tough. For me, I'm gonna go fact. Because at this point, if you don't win the finals this year, what the hell are you doing? You paid Jaylen Brown $60 million. You paid Tatum however million. I don't know if they gave him the Supermax deal extension yet, but they're gonna give it to him if they haven't done it yet. What are you doing if you're not winning the chip this year? Giannis out, injured. The Knicks out, injured. Miami Heat, they weren't fully ready when y'all played. They're out, injured. Tyrese Halliburton got hurt during y'all pace. Like, this is your time to win the chip. If it's not this year, when was the year that y'all believe y'all win a chip? Because the talent's always been there. The Celtics have had a formidable team for years. It hasn't been like, oh, this is the first year we got. No, y'all had a formidable team for years, and y'all have yet to win a championship. Yeah. So if y'all fall short again, I don't know what to tell y'all. Like, I don't know if this tandem could work. So for me, it's fact. I believe the Celtics should look to break it up if they don't win a championship this year. Because I don't at that point, I don't know what the hell is left. I don't know what y'all think y'all can improve on. Y'all paid everybody on that starting 5. Everyone's paid on that starting 5. So So if I can't do it this year, I don't know how you're gonna think you're gonna run it back next year with no bench, with no depth. So I mean, good luck. But yeah, I think they should break it up if they don't do it this year.
The reason why I got my cap on is because it depends on how the finals go. Now, if these guys are no-show, Tatum has one of those historical non-shows like he did a couple years ago against the Warriors when he had an all-time bad finals performance individually. If he has another one of those, then I think we need to have certain conversations. If Jaylen Brown has a game 7 like last year, if it were to go to a game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals, like, against Miami, where he was a no-show, one of those disappearing acts, then I think we need to have honest conversations. So I think it's a little bit contingent for me on how they lose. If the series goes 7 and Dallas just hit incredible shots to win the series, then it's like, all right, like, I think we need to give more credit to Dallas and their ability to, they guys, Luka Doncic being one of the best players in the world, Kyrie Irving, we all know what he did to the Warriors a couple years ago. And yes, it did allow the Warriors to overreact in some ways by bringing a guy like Kevin Durant because of Kyrie Irving's shot, really, when you think about it. So they made the next move. But I think the Celtics, it's so much success they had with Jaylen Brown and Tatum from the very beginning. And I think it just comes down to closing the job. Yes, I do think they should win this year. It should be all in. They should win the championship. There's really no excuses. But I don't think they should overreact because making the finals is prestigious. But then you got the financial equations to this. Tatum still is due for a contract. It's going to be a very expensive thing to keep this team together. But I think it's all contingent on how the finals plays out. So that's why I'm going to go with Cat. All right, we're going to move on to the next one. We actually got 2 more. So this one and the last one. Okay, let me check the comments here. We're getting comments. Who should they keep if they break up the team? That's a very good question. We could answer that right now. Zay, if you want to start, you can go ahead.
My pick is Jaylen Brown.
I agree 1,000%. I think they should keep Jaylen Brown as well. I think he's a better leader than Tatum. And I think, obviously, you'll get more for Tatum, and literally. And you could build around Jaylen Brown that way. All right, let's move on to this one. The finals will go 7 games. Fact or cap? I'm going to take on my cap here. I'm going to go with fact. I think it will go 7 games. I think when you combine a lot of what we talked about so far, in regards to fact, the cap, the talent, the skill, the Celtics, a lot of people give them the knack for not being battle tested in the playoffs. I think this is going to be the big true test. The Mavericks are playing well. They beat a lot of good teams. I didn't think they was going to beat OKC. They did. I didn't think they was going to beat the Timberwolves. They did. And they played well defensively. That's the key here. How well they're playing defensively and locking in on that side of the ball. I think we are bound for game 7. The shot making, the clutch, shots in the fourth quarter. I think a lot of these games are going to be close. I'll be shocked if this is not a long series 6 or even 7. So I'm going to go with fact here. I think we are going to get at least a game 7.
Yeah, I'm going with cap. I think this series ends in 6. 5. I think 5 or 6 is appropriate. I think both these teams, they have weaknesses. And I think whoever exploits those weaknesses will win that series. Of course, easier said than done. Whoever exploits the weaknesses win the series. But I think it's more glaring than that. I think when you look at both Boston and Dallas, they have a knack of trying to force the strains upon their opponents. And in certain cases, it doesn't work out in that magnitude. So this series, of course, could come to adjustments, and who has the better adjustments. I'll discuss those later in the show on who I believe will make those best adjustments. But I think the series ends in 6 at best. At worst 5.
Good. I like how you left the cliffhanger there because we do have our predictions coming up. We got one more finals topic, so that's why we are leaving some meat on the bone here. Dallas should be the real favorites to win the NBA Finals. Fact or cap, say?
I think it's fact, and I'm not even gonna talk about this matchup. I'm gonna say fact, and not cap. Excuse me, fact. And I'm gonna say it because of what they were able to do in this playoff series. They're the first team since the 2010 Lakers to defeat 50 plus win teams in 3 straight matchups in playoffs to go into the NBA Finals. So if you understand the magnitude of what that means, they played against 3 of the top teams in the Western Conference to get to the NBA Finals. It's an impressive feat. Not easy to be done. especially if you're the underdog in each series. I think when you have that kind of capability, you should be the favorites because you're playing against three highly incredible teams with their records, are saying they are into the playoffs, in the whole playoffs to go into the NBA Finals. So for me, the Dallas should be the world favorites to win the finals based on their what they just accomplished.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cap here, and the reason why I'm gonna go Cap is because even though you can make the logistic argument that the Mavericks' road to get here was definitely more turbulent and challenging than Boston, right? Obviously, OKC was one of the best teams in basketball all year consistent. The Timberwolves just beat the Denver Nuggets. They built the team to stop them, and they were playing with high momentum. Anthony Edwards, all the hype. He's the next Michael Jordan. And they ran into that team, and they literally almost a gentleman's sweep, really, when you think about it. So their road to get here was a little bit tougher, so I can understand the momentum kind of being on their side. Boston has a lot of rest. They wrapped up their series early, so they might be a little rusty. So I think you can take that in consideration as well. However, I do think Boston has been consistent throughout the whole year, regular season and playoffs included. And I think a lot of people, we talked about this on previous shows, a lot of people are disrespecting, their road to get here. And I understand why. With all the injuries, it definitely made their path easier. But Boston's biggest challenge is mental more than anything else. Is knowing that they have expectations and living with those expectations and over exceeding those expectations and meeting those expectations. Boston's biggest challenge is Boston. And Boston has been able to overcome Boston throughout these playoffs and throughout the regular season. I think they should be the favorites heading into this matchup. All right. That pretty much wraps up Factor Cap. I'm glad to have that segment back a little bit, even Absolutely. If it's going to be a one-time thing, maybe we'll do it in another special, circumstance. But we are going to come back later on to predict the NBA Finals. So make sure you tap in for that and make sure you stick around.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, or leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.